My next guest is Cesar, who is the founder and owner of Cultivating Wisdom, which is a lifestyle and apparel brand for people to manifest and cultivate wisdom about the benefits of microdosing. But more than that, I consider Cesar a very dear friend of mine who we have built our relationship over the past couple of months after I started trip sitting. And he started cultivating wisdom once he started microdosing. And he actually just very recently, at the age of 55, had his first full macrodose experience with psilocybin. And on this episode, we talk about that entire experience and what happened and how that changed his outlook on life as he's going through a pretty big transitionary period. And I just really, really enjoyed our conversation and can't wait to share this with you. So here we go. Been doing that for?
You know what? Our lives totally changed with my diving to psychedelics, the sort of the openness, the sort of more in touch with myself and going, you know what? I'd meditated before here or there. I didn't have it as a practice. I mean, I tried to a couple times and would go on for maybe, a couple of weeks, but then would stop because of this, because of that, because I had to go to bed. But now it's become a habit. Now it's become part of our daily routine.
Yeah. So you took your first macrodose experience on mushrooms. You were 55 years old, correct?
I did. My first dive into psychedelics, like many people, was out of recreational curiosity. This was about early October of this year, because someone I know had a psychedelic experience with mushrooms, with a chocolate bar, and the curiosity was there. I had tried other substances in my life. I mean, I lived in Miami in the 80s, so it was that curiosity that sort of piqued it. That first sort of dose, which was a very small dose, and I sort of felt like, okay, I feel a little bit like a kid, but what am I supposed to be feeling? I was expecting something like other substances I had, right? Whether it was smoking cannabis, whether it was, I was waiting for that, and it wasn't there. So I was like, okay. A couple of days later, I took a mini dose and was on this bike ride with about 300 people, which fortunately it was a mini dose, so it wasn't like a macrodose. So I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, okay. But there was this euphoric feeling of like, this is what the earth feels like. This is what the trees look like. This is what the sky feels like. And it was weird because it was right before Halloween. So houses were all decorated for Halloween. So it was sort of these really cool visuals and situations. And when I got home, something inside me said, there's a little bit more to this than this recreational experience. There might be some healing power here, because I felt like I'd never felt with anything else I had tried in my life, whether it was coffee, whether it was weed, whether it was, back in the 80s, whatever it was, I never felt what it was. And I said, I want to feel that healing power. And I started delving into, what are psychedelics? What is psilocybin? How are people using it? How have people used it before? What is a mini trip? What is a macrodose? What is a heroic dose? And said, you know what? Microdosing might be something that's going to be beneficial to me. At this time, my corporate job was about to pretty much, I knew, eliminate my job. I thought the writing was on the wall. And I figured that microdosing might be a way to sort of set me really well footed. So November 7th was the first day of my microdosing protocol. I felt that I had done enough research to know that I was going to get on a good protocol, that I was going to get on the Fadiman protocol, that it was going to be 1 day on, 2 days off, that I was going to have a day of dosage, a day of transition, a day of integration. And I went in full head first. I said, this is it. This is what I'm doing. I had really great intentions right from the start. One of them being, I wanted to stop vaping. I was at a point in my life where I was vaping like a chain smoker. I wasn't done with one of those pacifiers before I was buying another one. And it was controlling me. I mean, I was, hey, I got to go to the supermarket to go get eggs. Oh, but there's eggs already in the refrigerator. No, but I got to get these special ones. So I could go hide from my problems. And I had that intention to stop. And since then I have not vaped. And as the days went on, I was like, well, I'm not sure if I'm ready for a macrodose. I'm really not sure if my brain is ready for it. And a couple of days before my birthday, which is November 16th, I said, I'm ready. I said, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to sort of find who I am, what I need to do. In between this time, this vision sort of came to me through the mushrooms. You know what I mean? Look, there's something out there. There's something that you could there's this niche that you can grab onto. And then it became not just a niche, but a message. And on that birthday of mine, my 55th birthday, I asked my wife, I said, I don't want you to buy anything for me. I don't want a gift. I don't want you to take me to dinner. I don't want you, all I need for you to do is to sit for me. I'm going to do a macrodose. I took 4 grams of psilocybin. And I said, I'm ready for this journey. I'm ready. And wow. All I can say is, I wished one day I could make a movie of just that experience of those 4 hours, because they were truly life-changing. Are
you able to describe that trip at all, or is it just one of those, like, it's just beyond words?
I can tell you, I can break it down into about 5 sections of where it was, which are really, really amazing. I got ready in the morning, did some meditation, went outside, grounded myself. I prepared myself for what was going to happen. I set myself a little altar with pictures of my children, pictures of my wife, pictures of my grandmother, pictures of someone I call from my old age, Rico Suave, which was this sort of altered person that, you know what I mean? I sort of was fake it till you make it type of person. So he was on there too. You know what I mean? The psilocybin, a couple of stones that I had gotten from an eclectic store the day before, and I was ready to go. I took my dosage. I sat in bed for a little bit. My wife said, this is about half an hour in, she said, I'm going to have something to eat. I'm sort of feeling a little bit like craving some food. And I was like, all right, perfect. And I went in with her, and it started by seeing her like in this glow. She had like this aura around her. It was really cool. And she was just, I could tell that she was doing something special for me. And all of a sudden something said, go lay on the dining room table. And I was like, what? It said, go lay on the dining room table. So she looks at me as I'm sort of walking towards the dining room table, and she's laying on the dining room table. And it said to me, it said, you need to set a buffet table of wisdom so that you can cultivate something better. You have wisdom, not that you have wisdom of everything, but that you have wisdom of something, whether it's love, whether it's passion, whether it's what you're doing right now. That's your wisdom. Go have at it. And Cam, I'm not lying to you. I started laughing like if I was 10 years old, that laughter that you have as a child that you just can't stop. And I was sitting there on the table telling my wife, don't worry, baby, I'm not putting my feet on the table. Don't worry. And she's like, you're acting like such a child. And then she went off to do something. And I'm like, you're not even paying attention to me. And she's like, okay, you're such a child right now. And that was part of it. It was sort of
like that inner child coming out for the first time.
Yes,
like when was the last time that you felt that inner child, like before then?
Not, you know what? I felt it a little bit on that bike ride for that mini dose. That was a bit of that sort of, that
like it's starting to come out, again. Starting to show itself.
Yes. But it was on that table that I was like, wow, I felt like a kid. I felt like a real child. And then I got this sort of tiredness, and I said, okay, I'm ready to go to bed. I'm ready to sort of at least lay down a little bit. I had some blindfolds that I had on. I laid down, and before I laid down, it said, go walk around the room with the blindfold on. And I was like, okay. And I started walking around my room, and it said, you don't need to see to know where you're going. If you lead with your heart, it'll be there. You don't necessarily need to see. And I was walking around my room like, okay, this is fine. And it said to me, go over and grab the blanket that's on the couch in the room. And I was like, okay. And I knew where the blanket was. I didn't need to see it. But it was weird because as I got to the blanket, we have sort of a barn door that opens to go to the bathroom. And as I hit it, or as I was going towards it, I bumped into the door, and the door started to close. And all of a sudden something overcame me, like really strong, that it almost like dropped me to my knees. It was sort of like this really heavy feeling. And it was just like, let it go. Just let it go. Just feel what you're feeling. Feel what you're feeling. If you're going to cry, cry. If you want to go down your knees, go down your knees. And I went down to my knees. I got in the baby's pose, and I just sort of let it happen. And then it said, okay, go lay down. Go lay down. And I laid down, and the altar I had put on like a little table that you have when you eat in bed. So I had everything on there. I take the altar and I put it over me. And it was weird because I wanted to sort of make sure I was fine, that I wasn't getting the altar stuck on the blanket. So I peeked out of the blindfold, and in that corner where the barn door had opened, it looked like a closet. It looked like a weirdly weird empty closet. And I was like, okay. So I lay down, I put the blindfold on, and everything goes dark. Everything goes really dark. And I see a picture of my dad, like this picture of my dad who's still alive, just glowing. He's just had this big smile, and he's glowing, and it was incredibly wonderful. And then I ended up in like a room with glass planes, and it was beautiful. It was like I was in a church, but it wasn't a church. It was just all these glasses, and it was saying, lead with your heart. Like, be real, really, really believe in what you're doing, because if you do, it'll be something beautiful like this. And I was like, okay, perfect. And then all of a sudden it got dark quick, like
Yeah.
really, really, like it got dark quick. And I transported back to my childhood bedroom in a situation where, you know, we all might have some trauma from our childhood. And I went right back into that, like right back into that situation. And I was like, why am I here? Like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening to me? And the person that was there, I was asking him, why are you doing this? Like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening? And it was, you know, pretty much let it go, let it go. And, you know, my upbringing was in a Hispanic family where, you know, that family came from, there was punishment for if you did something wrong. There was sort of consequences. And that's sort of what my dad knew growing up. So that was what he sort of, that's what he knew.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying this, my wife is there. She's comforting me. She's not saying anything, which was beautiful. She's just making sure I'm fine. And then I end up in a closet, like that closet from the door. And it was me sort of hovering in that closet. I must have been like about 12 years old. And I think that was the last time my dad sort of said, you know, I got a spanking for something.
Yeah.
Actually something I didn't do. Like the TV had broken, and it was like, who broke the TV? And I was like, I was hiding in this closet, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And once it was like, before he got into the closet, like it stopped, and it almost felt like he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to like lose my breath. Like I started to breathe heavy. Like I was almost dying. And it was like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, where is he? Like, why can't I see him? Like, what's going to happen when he's not there? Like, what's going to happen when he's not there in my life? And I was just like this empty, sinking feeling, like, what am I doing? And it said to me, whatever you do, do it in honor of him. Make him proud. Make him, whatever you do, make sure that he understands what's going on, and you make him proud. And I was like, you know what? That's right. That's cool. That's what I have to do. I have to let that go. I can't let, in other words, situations in the past where I might have not done it because I was scared of failing. I was scared that something was going to go wrong. I had to let that go. I had to totally let that go, and I couldn't hold it against my dad because that was maybe a way of him loving, in the sense of like, you know what? You have to do better. I know you can do better.
It's like amazing hearing you say that, and obviously I want to hear the rest of this too. But the last time that I took like a macrodose of mushrooms, I wrote about it on the blog. But I you know was sort of, you know, going through this situation where my dad had just had surgery and stuff, and after doing ayahuasca, there was all this kind of childhood trauma that came up, and a lot of that had to do with the way that my dad disciplined me. And I've you know since figured out, after doing a bunch of psychedelics, like he was never doing that to make me scared or to make me feel bad or to make me fucking hate myself. That was me doing all of that stuff. But the way that he showed it, that, I mean, that's what he knew. I mean, he grew up in basically like the Bronx in the fucking 70s. And, you know, that you know, he had a pretty rough upbringing as well. His parents weren't really there for him. His dad died when he was 20. And so, you know, I don't think I've blamed my dad for a lot of things. I understand that he was doing the best that he could, but all of that pain from my childhood, I never actually truly let that go yet. Like I was still holding that in, even though I didn't hold him responsible for it. I was still holding in all that energy and stuff. And so my last mushroom trip, there was this thought that just came over my mind. Like it had literally in that moment felt like my dad died. Like it was this rush that came over my body, and I was like, holy shit, he's gone. And like, I'm even getting like emotional right now just talking about
totally.
it. Like,
yes.
It was like me, you know, realizing like, obviously I don't want him to die. And there was a time during my childhood where like, I really did. Like I felt so fucking bad anytime I was around him. And like, I had that thought, and I basically just had to come to terms with the fact that like that used to happen, and I just had so much shame and guilt for ever thinking about that, and was able to like work through it. And like, even though basically during that time, like it felt like he had died, and then I was like, oh my God, like he's actually dead, and like this is a terrible feeling. Like I don't want him to be gone. I don't want any of that. And you know, after just tears and tears and tears and tears, I was able to work through it. And then also, you know, kind of realizing like once he is gone, you're like, he's not actually going to be gone, and, you know, we're all going to be fine. And then afterwards I was like, oh wait, he's actually still alive. And, you know, I called him and actually told him about the experience. But yeah, it's so interesting. Just some of that childhood trauma that we go through, that like that energy is still stored up inside of us.
Yeah. Cam, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's, again, holy cow. That's exactly what I felt. That's exactly what I lived in that moment. And it was that afterwards letting go, like saying, you know what? I forgive you, right? Not that maybe my dad needs forgiveness because that's what it was, but I had to forgive it. In other words, I'm a big believer in three things, and sort of love, because love is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful feeling. It's a lot better than anger or hate or resentment or anxiety. It's a better feeling. Forgiveness, the forgiveness not for the other person, but the forgiveness for oneself.
For yourself.
Because once you forgive, you don't feel that anger. You don't feel that whatever you're feeling towards that person. You're saying, okay, it's okay. I get it. I forgive you. And then you release. And then the other one is look forward. I mean, a lot of times someone said, yo, you ride your bike a lot. Do you ride your bike like this? I go, no. Then why are you living your life like that? It's forward. It's moving forward. That's where it is. So you're right. It's sort of that forgiveness, that relief was sort of was a big pressure off. And it was like, you know what, whatever I do, if this is what I'm going to do from now on, do it in honor of him. Do it in his honor. Make him proud. In other words, make him proud of what you're doing. Not that he's not proud now, but that he says, holy cow, look at what my son did. He went from being, a loyal sailor on a corporate ship to now owning his own vessel, having his own vessel, being the captain of his boat. I'm so proud of him. That's why part of me is doing this. But it was weird because once I let go of that, it said, okay, get up and open up the curtain to your bedroom, because the whole thing was dark. And I opened up the curtain, and then the house across the street, they had busted it down. They torn it down to build a new home. And it said, that's you right now. Like, that house has been in tatters. There's shields and shingles here and there. And that's you, because that house is going to be something beautiful. Eventually it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to build incredible memories. That's where you are right now. And I was like, holy cow, that's really powerful. That is exactly where I am. And all of a sudden it said, I felt like, okay, I want to go for a walk. You know what I mean? I felt like I need to be outside. I want to be in touch with nature. And I asked my wife, it was about 35 degrees that day. And I asked my wife, I go, babe, I want to go for a walk. Do you want to go with me? And it was cold. So she was like, you know what? Let me sort of warm up a little bit. And literally the mushroom said, dummy, the walk is not for her and you. The walk is for you. The walk is for you, and take your kids. You hate the cold. You're going to start to like the cold, because the cold is good. Go in a t-shirt, go in shorts, go in flip-flops, put on a beanie. And I was like, what? Yeah, put on a beanie. And it said, take your kids with you. And I had on the altar pictures of my kids the day they were born. And I took them in my hand, and I go outside and I start walking, and it's just feeling beautiful. It's like this crisp air. And I'm like, breathing, and I'm like, wow, this is wonderful, and I'm feeling really good about myself. And as I go to turn down the street towards the house, it says, no, wait, don't turn yet. Keep going straight, because down that road there's a long hill to go down, and you need to come back up that hill, because it's going to be a long road. This isn't like, okay, hunky dory, it's going to be easy, everything's going to fly, whatever. No, it's a long road that you're going to have to travel. It's going to be hard, so keep going. And it said, and take your kids, take off your beanie, and put them in a hat. And I was like, what? Okay. So I put my kids in the hat and said, you don't need affirmation from anybody. Your kids might question right now what you're doing, because it's psychedelics, and you know what I mean? You're sort of promoting things that people are doing that might be illegal. You know what? You don't need their affirmation. Just let them be. Let them be. You don't need them to tell you it's okay. And I swear to you, Cam, I put on the beanie, and all the pictures fell in the back of the hat. Not one of them in the front. And I was like, holy cow, that's right. They'll be there with me. They're going to be there with me, and they'll support me, and they might not understand here or there, but once they see that I'm happy, that I'm helping people, it's not like I'm doing something bad. I'm bringing this voice to people that are having healing, then you'll be fine. And I start walking, and it had rained the day before, and I start looking for mushrooms. Like, okay, if I see a mushroom, this is going to validate what I'm doing. This is going to validate what's going on. And I start walking, and nothing. There's no mushrooms. And I start going down the hill, and there's a road that comes down, and rocks have sort of eroded down because of the rain. It's a sort of rocky driveway that goes up to a service station, service road for a golf club, and a golf course. And as I come along the rocks, it's telling me, get all the distractions out of your way. Whether it's that stupid stuff you're looking on the Instagram, or whether it's stuff that's not really that you need, get all those distractions out of your way. And I start getting them out of the way. And all of a sudden I come across this red rock. All of them are gray. And it said, that's what you're looking for. And I was like, no, that's not. I'm looking for mushrooms. That's not what I'm looking for. And it said, no, that is what you're looking for. And I was like, okay. I pick up the rock, and the rock fits perfectly in my hand. It's just perfect for my hand. I'm like, okay. And I look at it. I'm like, fine. And I put it in my pocket and I continue to look for the mushrooms. I walk down to the bottom of the hill. I turn around. I start walking up. And as I'm walking up to the top of the hill, there's no mushrooms, and there should be because there's nice forages. There's good places for them to go, and there's nothing going on. And I'm like, why aren't they showing up? Why aren't they showing up? And the only thing I heard in my head was, everything you need is in your hands. That strength, that rock is you. It's in your hands. The mushrooms are always going to be there. They're always going to be there. But you're living your life looking down when you should be looking at your life looking up. Stop looking down and look up at what's in front of you, because that's where it is. And I was like, holy cow, that is incredible. That is so amazing. And I came back home. I hugged my wife and I was like, that was so profound. What I lived right there was, one, it answered these questions of who I am and what's holding me back, right? What are, that was one of my intentions. And the other intention was, what's going to happen once my corporate job is eliminated? Once my position is done, where am I going to go? And it said, as long as you lead with your heart, what you're doing is going to be amazing. And that was my first ever macrodose. Since then, I've continued to microdose. I just actually finished my 1 month protocol. So I'm going to take a couple of weeks off just to sort of integrate, see where I am. Yeah. But the sort of microdosing has helped me reinforce those messages that I got in that macrodose. Yeah. Every time it's sort of, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing this with my heart. I'm opening up this conversation, and that's where I am. And I was sort of, I'm waiting to see when the mushrooms say, okay, you're ready to take another one. Until then, you know what I mean? We're right here, right now.
Listen to your heart. Your heart will tell you when you're ready to start microdosing again, like all that stuff. It's, there's no set timelines. I'm curious too, when you, so I know you mentioned that you journal every day too. Did you start even just like journaling and like intention setting right when you started microdosing, or did you do that before at all?
No, I had journaled before. I definitely, I had situations where, whether it was more for health purposes, you know what I mean? I worked out today, you know what I mean? Yeah. I ate this, I ate that, I slept so long, but it was never intention purpose. It was never intentions written. There was never, it was never a guided, sort of writing a guide for myself, scrapbook for myself. I started totally journaling that November 7th, the day I microdosed. And it's sort of, I've become an open book. I carry this thing with me everywhere. And, whenever we go to sort of, show off our stuff, it's like, I tell people, look, this is, you can read my journal, take my journal and read it. Yeah. These were my intentions. This is sort of, my intentions when I started to microdose was, find a better person, find who I am, stop vaping, enough with the vaping. You got to let that shit go. That's just killing you. Become a better human, smile a little bit more, cultivate some wisdom. And now the journaling has become an everyday part of my life. And when I talk to people, a lot of people go, well, you know what? I really don't have time for journaling. That's tedious. And I really don't know how to write. And I tell people, look, you only need to do two things. In the morning, write your intentions. And your intentions could be, I want to hug 3 people. I want to have a better meeting. I want to be more creative. And the intentions don't have to be different every day. You can have the same intention every single day. I just want to be a better human.
I've definitely like had trouble like journaling before, when like I know I should be doing this and like I don't know what to write. Like my journaling is definitely less like intention setting. It's more of just like, just get all of my thoughts onto a paper to just help me organize my own thoughts. Cause like there's just so much shit that's going on in my mind sometimes that like I don't know what it is that I want. Like I can't fucking find it, and it's like very unhelpful. Sometimes I will literally open my journal and just write fuck, like literally just like spell that out, because I have no idea what the fuck is going on in my head, and like that will then help me be like, I'll literally then right after that, okay, like I'm having trouble organizing my thoughts, like this is happening, and like that will eventually lead me to, oh, like it's actually because like I'm anxious about this thing that's about to come up right now, and like it'll help me clear it. But like the act of putting that on paper and even writing the dumbest shit, like that is what can help me organize my thoughts. And like obviously not everybody is comfortable with sharing their journals with people.
No, of course.
People can see that, but like everybody should be journaling as if nobody else is ever going to read it. So like literally put the dumbest shit. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about spelling correctly. Like don't worry about any of that shit.
Yeah, if it's readable or not, as long as you can read it.
Yeah. And honestly, like even then, sometimes like you don't have to. And like there's been times too where like I've written a whole journal and then I'll tear out the page and just fucking throw it away and be like, okay, like we're done with that.
Burn it. It's good.
It's just like the act of putting pen to paper. And doing that, I think is so helpful to just organize your thoughts.
And I tell people, even if you get in the exercise of, you know, whatever your intentions are, you know what I mean? Something you're grateful for in the morning, something in the morning that's just, you know what, I'm waking up to this. And then at night, what was your high and what was your low of the day? That's all. Yeah. It's sort of, that's it. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what? I had this situation at work where, you know what, I sort of felt, and this is how I worked it out. Or, you know what an amazing lunch I had by myself in the park, and I saw the trees and felt the birds, and, you know, just those little things, because then you end up figuring out and you're like, holy cow, I just wrote like a page and a half of what I lived today. And that's it. That's journaling. But it's sort of getting in that practice of, you know what, in the morning, just something, an intention, what you're grateful for. And at night, you're high and low. Yeah. And that sometimes can turn into writing these beautiful things where you can go back and say, oh, you know what, I'm struggling with that same thing again that I was a week ago. How did I deal with it then? How am I going to deal with it now?
And also, so like, start slow. And like one of the things that when I first ever started journaling, which was, I think it was like the beginning of 2021. So like almost 2 years ago, I first got like a journal, and like it literally had things like high of the day, low of the day, like what do you grade? And like it, you know, it would like prompt me like to kind of think of stuff.
Yeah.
I would then like, I would still not want to do it every day. And then I would make myself feel bad if I didn't fucking do it, which is not what you should do.
Yeah,
like like if you don't journal for a day, like who gives a shit? Like fucking
exactly.
Try again tomorrow. Don't feel that shame and guilt. I was still in that vicious cycle of just making myself just feel so much shame and guilt for every fucking thing that I did wrong, because I'm you know, not a perfect human apparently.
No. And we're all, none of us are.
None of us are, but yet
none of us are.
We try to hold ourselves to this like weird standard of perfection. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever gone through that where like you've tried to just do, you know, you're trying too hard to do everything right, or like too hard to make people like you, and too hard to just be this perfect being that doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah, no, I think it does. And sort of that to me was that sort of Rico Suave guy, you know, fake it till you make it type of situation. When then I'd go home and be like, wow, I was like, why did I do that? Or, you know what I mean? Or, you know, and my wife always says, we as humans, we have this situation sometimes where we're really hard on ourselves. You know, it's sort of, we beat ourselves over the back because we did this or we didn't do that. And sometimes, like you said, with journaling that happens. And sometimes you get that feeling that next day, oh, you know what, I should have journaled yesterday. Why shouldn't I? Well, you didn't. Yeah. And just let it go. Who cares? You know, just move forward. It's sort of the now is what's important. And if right now you feel like journaling, journal right now. If right now you don't feel like journaling, then you don't feel like journaling right now. You might feel it tomorrow. But sort of, it's a good practice in the sense of, you know what, it's sort of a good way to sort of write your little book of who you are and where you are, because that's sort of, that could help you go back to situations if you encounter them again. Yeah. But you shouldn't, you're right, you shouldn't beat yourself over the head because I didn't journal for 3 weeks or because whatever, because I had so many other things on my mind and projects that I had to work on that I just didn't have those minutes to sort of do that. But now I'm going to do it again. And now I'm going to journal about those 3 weeks that I didn't sort of, you know, journal.
Yeah. Or just fucking start from right where you are. Like, fuck those 3 weeks. Just do it. Do what feels natural. And actually just kind of moving on. I want to change the subject. I'm curious, did you ever have any other awakening experiences before basically taking mushrooms for the first time? Obviously that's a completely different one, but were there ever any other times in your life where I guess like you felt stuck and you've had this sort of epiphany, or like have you always just been good at just going through it and not really feeling like, you know, that kind of, is there something more?
That's a bit of a loaded question, because I was a person who would hide from my problems a bit through smoking marijuana, right? It was sort of, that was my escape from whatever was going on. You know what I mean? Well, you know, times are tough. I'm going to sort of alleviate them with this. So it was sort of,
and you use cannabis really not to face your problems, but to essentially escape.
Correct,
like there's
to escape them.
And that's also something too, is like cannabis is fantastic. It's another type of plant medicine, but, and this is why intentions are so important. If you're using it to go inward and you're using it to deal with your problems, that's positive. If you're using it to escape, which a lot of people do. And when I first started using cannabis, like everybody around me was using it to escape. And so that then created the vicious cycle of me trying to use it to escape. And I always fucking hated it, actually. And I was like, I must just be doing this wrong. And I would just keep trying in order to be like, maybe eventually this will feel good. And no, it was just because I was not having the right intentions with it.
Yeah. And with me, it was more, again, it was almost like there was moments where it was almost a 24-hour cycle to sort of get away. I mean, get away from whatever it was, whether it was, problems at work, problems at home, dealing with this, dealing with that. I was numbing myself to the reality of life, right?
Yeah.
Moments that sort of really stuck out. Again, obviously the birth of my 3 children are probably the most magical days of my life, because it's sort of seeing the birth of something that's yours. It's incredible. It's incredible. So I'll never, those were awakening days in the sense of like, okay, now you got to step up, guy. Now you're a father. Now it's not like you're just willy-nilly.
How old were you when you had your first child?
I was 26 years old.
26. Holy fuck. Yeah, I'm about to turn 26 and I could not imagine.
It's a quick awakening. And again, it's children are a blessing. My mom and I have this theory that children are like jigsaw puzzles. Mm-hmm. And when they're a year old, it's a 10-piece jigsaw puzzle, because you're dealing with diapers, you're dealing, with bottles, you're dealing with whatever. When they're 10 and 12 years old, it's a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle, because my kid's adapting, or they find her, they're doing well at school. When they're teenagers, it's like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, because you're trying to figure out everything for them when you have to let them figure out some things for themselves. Yeah. And that jigsaw puzzle is never gone. That jigsaw puzzle is always in front of you. My mom says, look, your jigsaw puzzle was perfect. I thought it was perfect. And all of a sudden you tell me you're getting divorced, and it's like, wait a minute, part of this jigsaw puzzle is gone. Like, what do I do? What can I do to help? They're always there. The jigsaw puzzles are always going to be there. I mean, I have a 27-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 17-year-old, and that jigsaw puzzle is in front of me every single day. So it's sort of, those are awakening moments, but nothing like what this has done to me. Nothing like, in other words, the confidence it's given in me, that I feel, the desire to sort of spread this message and help others who might want to listen to. I never had that before. And again, it came at a really important time in my life because of this transition that I'm having now, because of my corporate job being eliminated. Yeah. It could have been a perfect moment for me to get really stuck and go, holy cow, who's hiring 55-year-olds? Where am I going to go now? What am I going to do now? And it was this awakening of like, you have a lot of potential to do a lot of things. Just open yourself up to all these possibilities. They will come to you. They will be there.
It's interesting to me how essentially like you started thinking about the mushrooms. Like, again, like you could have found this information at any given fucking moment over the past year or two or whatever, when, these things have started to pop up in just pop culture in general. And yet just the fact that like, this curiosity builds and it happens right before a huge life transition happens that you had absolutely no control over. Like, I mean, did you just the sort of divine intervention? Like, I don't know how much you believe in God and how much you believe in just necessarily like things in the universe all happening for a reason, but it's just so insane how the timing of this has worked out for you. And like, again, like you did this before you even knew that your position was going to be eliminated. And yet like the mushrooms found you, you decided I'm going to go on this journey. And then, I mean, fucking 3 weeks after your macrodose journey where you've had this, incredible experience, your position actually does get eliminated.
Exactly. which is totally crazy. It's insane. Again, how life happens and how, this beautiful medicine came into my hands at the perfect moment. It was funny because that day, I knew it was going to happen. I knew that was the day it was, that they were going to tell me, thanks for your services. Now, find something else to do. My wife said to me, the universe is going to put you where the universe needs you. And if the universe needs you to keep your job, you're going to keep your job. If the universe needs you to do something else, you're going to do something else. So the universe needed for me to find the mushrooms to put me in this place. And like I said, it came through someone really close to me telling me they had this experience, to me then saying, well, I want to have this experience, to then me having the experience and my eyes opening up and my heart opening up to something, this potential that's there, to then sort of saying, okay, well, use this, to sort of see if you can do something with this, if you can run with this and have this become your future, have this become what you're going to do. And that's how Cultivating Wisdom completely came up. It was sort of this vision of, wow, there's 300,000 people, close to 300,000 people on the Reddit subgroup microdosing, which means there's 300,000 people who are either microdosing or interested in microdosing. There's something there. There's a niche there. And maybe the vision, started, well, you know what, let's sort of have a t-shirt that's something, right? That's not, it's not trippy dippy, because what was out there, if I said, you know what, I want to proclaim the fact that I'm using plant medicine, that I'm using psilocybin, that I'm using mushrooms to sort of better myself. A lot of the options out there are some, trippy, psychedelic, Grateful Dead, beautiful.
Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here in my tie-dye shirt.
Yeah, but here's the difference. You're a 20-something-year-old dude, which is beautiful. If I was 20, I would wear the same thing, but I'm 55 years old. You know what I mean? Someone sees me and they're like, oh, there's a dude that goes to the Grateful Dead concerts and he's tripping balls, you know what I mean, every other weekend, and he's out in the forest. And I'm like, no, that's not me at all. So that vision was like, okay, what do we do?
Much more intentional, having the more intellectual aspect of the plants.
Exactly. And exactly of what it brings. And again, to start that conversation, my idea at first was, sort of, let's proclaim, let me use a t-shirt that's got the molecule for psilocybin and something that says psilocybin changed my life. We came up with a design that's, remember the old commercials, this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
And then the Berkeley Institute had those two big spheres of, this is your brain on, while it's on psilocybin. Well, we came up with this really cool design that has that, because it opens that conversation, right? It's sort of, that's what we want. It's sort of, a bit clean, a bit, my generation can wear it, your generation can wear it, and you're still able to sort of proclaim, hey, you know what? I'm using this plant medicine to better myself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this sort of was a t-shirt that sort of came out where it was like, I want people to start this conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The stigma that exists around psychedelics needs to stop. Unfortunately, we're on this third wave of the psychedelic renaissance, that maybe this can be part of it, that people can proudly wear this and say, yes, I am so much a better human. I've reconnected with my authentic self because of plant medicine, because of microdosing. And more than once, I've had people come up to me and go, wow, so do I. And what has it done for you? And how's it helped you? And I've had many people come up to me and say, hey, microdosing, I've read about that, you know what I mean, in the New York Times, or I'd heard about it on NPR, or I saw it in the news, or I saw some YouTube channel about it, people talking about it. I saw it on the Joe Rogan show. What is it? Like, how does it work? What are you doing? And my thing is, you know what? I can only tell you what my experience is. I don't tell anybody to do this or do that. Or do whatever.
That's so important. Everybody is going to have a different experience, and it does take some experimentation. Like, you need to figure out what the right dosage is, what the right protocol is for you. Like, some people go 5 days on, 2 days off. Some people go 4 days on, 3 days off. Some people do, again, as you do, Fatima protocol, like 1 day on, 2 days off. And so there is experimentation involved. It's not like there's a one size fits all. And you have to, like, going into it, you have to realize that and be okay with it. But I think the intentions is one of the most important parts about it, for sure.
If there's anything I tell people is, like, have intentions, because I've talked to more than one person. Oh, you microdose, and they go, yeah, once in a while I'll sort of take a little drop, or I'll eat a couple mushrooms, and I go, but are you on a protocol? Are you sort of doing this as sort of with intention? Are you sort of doing something? Oh no, I'm just doing. Well, then that's not really microdosing.
Yeah.
And two, you're not really getting.
Which is nothing wrong with that.
I tell people there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong. This medicine can be used for many purposes, And if your purpose is to have a good time, and I'm going to go to a rave, or I'm going to go to a concert, or I'm going to go to a festival, or I'm going to go out in the woods, perfect. That's awesome. Yeah. But I tell people sometimes be careful. Be careful, because if you don't have intentions and you don't know what you're going into, you might find yourself in a really dark, really bad place, or wake up the next morning with peanut butter all over your kitchen table because it's sort of, you weren't sure what was going on. So with intentions, it makes it so much more beautiful. It makes the medicine get you to where you hope you can be.
Yeah.
So I tell people, one, intentions are important. Educate yourself. You have to educate yourself. You have to sort of know, you have to sort of, and like you said, experiment a little bit. You know what I mean? You know, let me sort of try this dosage. Let me try that dosage, and get on a good protocol. You know what I mean? That you believe in. and see what the medicine does for you, because it is life changing. And I'm only saying that because of what it's done for me and
Yeah.
what it's done for other people. I mean, I've met many moms that say, you know what, before I used to drink a bottle of wine every day. I'd get home and, you know what I mean, sort of cope with the situation. I'd down a bottle of wine, you know what I mean, just or whatever, but I really wasn't present. Like I was there, I was sort of masking my situation and I wasn't feeling my situation, but now it's like I'm confronting him. Now it's sort of, I microdose and I'm able to
I'm going to feel everything that is happening in the situation. I'm not just going to get through it. I'm going to feel every single fucking part of it.
Exactly. And I'm going to be there.
That's what life is. Like, that's what life is just so much about. And like, I tell people since I've come back from Peru is that it's only been about 3 months since I've been back now. It's been the longest fucking 3 months of my entire fucking
Isn't
life.
That crazy?
And the reason is because like, I'm just living so much more presently that like, I'm feeling every single moment that's happening. And it's so beautiful. And like, that can sound daunting. If you would have told me this 2 years ago, like, hey, like, you want to feel everything? I'm like, absolutely the fuck not. Like that would be terrible.
Exactly.
Like I was just trying to get through it. And it's that difference of, you know, finding that mindset, cultivating that mindset of like realizing that, you know, it's not just about getting through it. Like you're just essentially just waiting to see like what's to come, like hoping things are going to get better. Like, yes, you need to go through those. And like, I'm sure you're still going to go through those times and I'm still going to go through those times as well. But recognizing when they come and then also realizing, yes, things will get better, but you also do have to take some control and try to do something to make things better as well. And so whatever that looks like for you, it's going to look different. And I'm kind of curious, Cesar. So right now, like you're going through obviously a really big transition stage in your life and a lot of things are changing. Have there ever been times where you found yourself, I guess, resistant to big changes before, or maybe you didn't essentially dive in and didn't make any changes that maybe you should have at the time?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's sort of, I was listening to someone today saying that fear that we have of change, that fear of, you know, what's going to happen, along with that I'm comfortable right now, puts us in those situations where we don't take those changes. We don't bet on ourselves. And I was in a relationship before where, not that it wasn't healthy, but we weren't the best fit for each other. You know what I mean? It's just, there was something there, and it wasn't that there wasn't love. It was just, it wasn't the correct fit for both of us, but it was this, you know, this comfort level of like, you know what I mean? Or that fear of like, you know, what happens if things change? What happens if, you know, I do something different? What happens if I get out of this relationship? What's going to happen? That fear sort of held me down. That fear that sort of like, okay, what, you know, I'm comfortable right now. You know, what's going to happen. And fortunately, at this moment in my life, it's sort of, my job was the same thing also. I mean, I had been in the same corporation for 25 years. So I became very comfortable. I became very comfortable at the job. I became very comfortable where I was. And there was sometimes, oh, you know what, try something different. Let's see, you know, you came up with this idea, you know, let's try it. And there was always something blocking me. There was always something, you know what? Nah, you know what? There was that ego. It's that ego. It's sort of, Eckhart Tolle talks about it in his book, The Power of Now. It's that ego brain that loves that. It loves to tell you can't do it. It loves to tell you you're not going to be able to survive. Yeah. If you do that, you know what I mean?
Wants to keep you complacent.
Exactly. It wants to keep you in that spot. And it's when you're sort of able to sort of talk to that ego and say, wait a minute, hold on a second. I can do this. You know what I mean? That ego that says, what, you're going to start an apparel brand? You know how many people have apparel brands? It's like, no, wait a minute. One, I might have found a niche that maybe needs some sort of stuff to be there. And second of all, I'm doing this from my heart. I'm doing this from me. So ego, you know what? Just relax. Or that ego that says, you know what? You're going to start an apparel brand and it's going to blow up. The sales are going to come in, like you're going to have to hold people at the door. No, ego, it doesn't happen that way. You have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy it. And it's that living in now. And you've talked a lot about that. It's that living in the now that makes the world so much better. And it's funny because yesterday I was talking to someone, because I was talking to them about my experience and how I was, because they were asking me about microdosing and you know, what it's done for me. And I was going back to my phone and I go, look, the first time I ever sort of copied a picture of a mushroom or sort of had that thing of like a mushroom was just October 31st. It was October 30th. And it's just now December, it's only a couple of months, but it feels like years. It feels like the world has slowed down for me so that I can enjoy everything, so that I can enjoy the process, so that I can enjoy my surroundings, so I can enjoy what I'm doing. And yeah, of course there's trepidations, of course there's fear, of course there's anxiety. I mean, this past weekend, we were going to be at a market where we were going to be outside, and then it was Sunday, and then I look at the weather forecast Friday, and it's like 100% chance rain. It's like, oh God, okay, let me deal with it. And Saturday I woke up, it's like 97% chance rain, and that anxiety started to kick in big time. Anxiety I hadn't felt in a while. You know what I mean? I think since I've started to do the mushrooms. And it was like that pit in my stomach, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And everything's going to be horrible, and it's going to rain, no one's going to come out, no one's going to see us. And my wife said, just feel it. Just let it feel, and then just let it go. You're going to ruin Saturday. It's Sunday, right? The event's Sunday. You're going to ruin Saturday for something that's going to happen Sunday. Live right now. So that being able to live right now has sort of put me in such a great place, because I'm not living in that past of like, why did I do this? Why didn't I do that?
You're not worrying about the future. I would have done that. And I'm not worried about the future. Hey, the rent's got to be paid, or the mortgage got to be paid, or the bills have to be paid. When do they have to be paid? A week from now. Well, then that's a week from now. Why are you worried about it now? Make plans. Yes. Plan so that it sort of gets done, but don't worry about it and make yourself sick over something that's sort of not here right now. Yeah. So that's been pretty powerful. And like you said, it's really slowed down time in a way that I didn't know. I mean, it feels like I can almost spend time right now. Like it feels like I'm literally just slowing down shit that I never was in control of. Like it's this weird fourth dimensional presence that I now have that I obviously I don't quite understand it, but it's so different and really thank you again to everybody for listening, and thank you to Cesar for coming on the podcast and being so open and awesome and sharing your story. If anybody is interested in getting in contact with Cesar, go to all of the footnotes of this podcast. You can go to cultivatingwisdom.net. And also, if you use the code TRIPSITTING20, you'll get 20% off everything that is in the store. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and share and subscribe, and we will see you for the next episode.